Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by the Exit Room of Lee Summit. An absolute rite of the season all across America, and certainly Kansas City is no exception, is the presentation of the Nutcracker. Tchaikovsky's glorious score and this famed ballet will be performed at the Kaufman Center for the Performing Arts by the Kansas City Ballet. There'll be 22 performances from December 5th through the 24th, many matinees, and all kinds of special events as well, including a sensory-friendly performance Wednesday, December 18th. Many people make the Nutcracker their first ballet experience, and many people maybe have the Nutcracker be their only ballet experience. But it certainly is something that is an outstanding success and fuels a lot of the great work that the Kansas City Ballet is able to do throughout the rest of the year. We talk about the Kansas City Ballet and the Nutcracker in the upcoming performance, which has some interesting changes and twists, with Devin Carney, the artistic director of the Kansas City Ballet. It's a really engaging conversation, enjoyable, and we'll talk about all things Kansas City Ballet, all things being a creative director, and all things the Nutcracker. Coming up next on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by the Exit Room of Lee Summit. Looking for a truly unique escape from your normal entertainment or corporate team-building regimen? Stay tuned for an exclusive offer only for Reasonably Irreverent listeners. I'm excited to tell you about an extraordinary destination, the Exit Room, located in the heart of beautiful downtown Lee Summit. The Exit Room is a distinctive entertainment option that offers a cool alternative to the normal couples night out, family get-togethers, and corporate team-building events. The Exit Room is a one-of-a-kind boutique escape room catering to special occasions and corporate team-building events and is unmatched in the Kansas City metro. With 5 individually designed and varied escape room adventures, your party or employees can unplug from their electronic world, interact with one another, match wits, and ultimately escape the humdrum of the ordinary. The Exit Room adventures cross decades and centuries and create fascinating fun. I know the owners well. They are local folks, their staff is warm and friendly, their lobby is inviting and beautiful, and their adventures are award-winning. Check online. There are over 1,000 reviews, and note that they are a rare 5-star ranked business. Visit their website and Facebook page, and any of my listeners who books online at theexitroomkc.com using the promo code Clinkscale19 gets 10% off any ticket purchase. The Exit Room in Lee Summit. Unplug, interact, and escape. Are you thinking of starting a new business? Does your current business feel stuck? Or are you just trying to grow what you already have? Running a business is a lot of work, and it takes the right team to make it all happen. If you're looking to grow your business, call my friends Ben and Greg over at Fuego Consulting. They put together a company that can help you reach your business goals. Whether you're looking to get online, build a social media strategy, or rebrand your business, they can help. Call Fuego at 816-663-9695 or visit them online at fuegoconsulting.com. Fuego Consulting. Let's grow your business together.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
Devin, this is an exciting time of the year always for, well, any ballet company, but the Nutcracker is such an important aspect of many opera companies around the country, and certainly it is in Kansas City. And we'll get into this year's production and how that goes as well. But just for the uninitiated, tell us a little bit about the Kansas City Ballet and where they are and you are with the ballet right now.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you, Danny, for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. It's always great to talk about our art form. So I'm really thrilled to be here. Kansas City Ballet, it's in its 62nd season now here in Kansas City. It is a fully professional company that employs 30 professional dancers, has a second company of around 14 to 19, depending on the year. We have a full production series that we present every season, which includes at least 3 main stage productions and then also Nutcracker. And as well, we do 2 productions here in our Todd Bolander Center for Dance and Creativity, which is a much more intimate setting where you get a chance to see the dancers really up close and really get a real sense of what dance is all about. So there's a wide variety of things that Kansas City Ballet does in terms of performances. There's also community engagement, which is very much a vital part of our company, where we go out into the community. And we are in 26 different public schools, both some in Kansas as well as in Missouri. We have a great relationship with the public school system in Kansas City, Missouri, with Dr. Bedell, who is the superintendent there. It's a really great experience, as well as some of the schools in Kansas. We also have an incredible school that we educate and offer classes to an enrollment, usually somewhere around 600 students who study with us 4 to 6 times a week. Plus, we also have what we might call recreational dance, which has around an enrollment of around 1,100. So you just drop in and take a jazz class or try out ballet in different forms. So there's a very extensive sort of range of, if you could call it, services that we provide and offer, all based on the idea that dance should be for everyone and that this community deserves great dance. It's a great city, and it deserves great dance in that city. And we're really thrilled to be a part of the cultural landscape of the city of Kansas City.
You've obviously been involved with the dance for many years in Boston, and you were an athlete when you were young and then moved into the dance. And how have you seen the evolution of the I guess, not acceptance, popularity, embracing of ballet through the years, through this past generation, as far as people getting involved in it, ebbs and flows, things like that?
Well, I think that, dance is a very old art form, just like opera is,
right.
Just like classical music goes way back before opera and ballet. And so there's a great history that we are all a part of. As the generations move forward, every different generation brings something new to the table. I would say that when it comes to for instance, what I saw as a young dancer when I first was introduced to it back in 1974 is when I first saw ballet for the first time as something that might be interesting that I would want to participate in. Since that time, there's been some great dancers who have really forged pathways forward for male dancers, such as Rudolf Nureyev,
right.
Mikhail Baryshnikov, Fernando Bajones, not as well known, but still a great male dancer of the 20th century, as well as incredible female dancers such as Cynthia Gregory and Natasha Makarova. There's just a very, very long list of great dancers who really showed us the way, if I could say that, right? And it was kind of like a golden era in terms of in the 70s, the 80s, of these really great masterpieces being created. Not only were we doing incredible classical work that had been brought forward from generation to generation, but there were some really incredible choreographers rising to the surface. And today, there's been this incredible evolution of being able to see new generations of dancers performing these great masterpieces. And what's interesting is the technical aspect of the art form has greatly increased. For some reason, people can jump higher.
Right. It's the evolution of people as
right.
physical specimens.
Right. They turn better. Guys can, women, men, there's so much more turning now than there used to be. The legs are up higher. The splits are more split. I didn't think you could get more split than a split, but they're more split
right.
than a split. But yet, the artistry, in spite of, or you have the technical aspect and then you have the artistic aspect.
Right.
And they can be very divergent roads.
Right.
Because if you get too technical, then it just becomes steps. And how extreme can you make the step? Right. But it's the artistry that has grown over the last few decades, which I'm really thrilled to see, and I'm happy to be a part of that process now, is that, we've taken and looked at and had great examples of artistic individuals who were incredible for their time. And we have the benefit of that, to look at that and say, okay, that was amazing. How can we make it even better?
Right.
And we're at that place, here at Kansas City Ballet, as are a lot of companies around the country, of taking that next step forward and really continually rejuvenating and somewhat, I guess you could say, reinventing the art form.
How does that adjustment come to you as an artistic director, where you know that people maybe have the physical capability to take some things and move them up a slight level or two, to sort of like in figure skating, where now they can do these quadruple jumps and things like
isn't that crazy?
Yeah. How is it? What kind of adjustment is it for you?
I think there's a balance.
Right, as you said. Yeah.
There's a balance. And I think it's a great example, what you said about the Olympic skaters. I love skating. I skated a lot as a kid. I played hockey a lot on frozen ponds.
Me too.
Yeah, exactly. Thankfully, I only fell through once.
I was thrown through once.
Oh, no.
But anyway.
I don't know which is worse. So, the skating, it's amazing to see what has happened since, the days of, it was really amazing to see somebody do a triple axel,
right.
And now, everything is required to be quads this and quads that. And,
right.
Has it really increased the artistry of that,
right.
that particular discipline? I don't think so. And I think that's the balance I'm talking about with my art form, is that, yeah, you can do, sure, somebody might be able to do 8 pirouettes. That's turn around 8 times on one foot. But is it being musical? Is it really adding to the mood of the moment? Is it in some way advancing the story that you're trying to tell? And that's my job, is to keep that balance there between splash and quality, and for me, my mantra is quality over quantity, always quality over quantity. But I'm still allowing an understanding of the reality that dancers today can do more, and you want to take advantage of that within reason. Mm-hmm. You don't want to use it to an excess, because then we really are losing sight of the art form.
Dancing is such a difficult discipline, physically demanding, mentally demanding, things like that. It takes a certain type of person to want to embrace that particular thing. And sometimes is that part of your job, to judge who, quote unquote, has what it takes to really make the sacrifices that are involved in becoming excellent?
Yeah, that's a really good question, which has many different aspects to it. I mean, I can speak for myself, growing up, that opportunity to go from something quite physical and technical, that is, I was pursuing being a downhill racer before I was introduced to dance. And there's a lot to be said about the artistic side of athleticism. And that is something that is hard to define, who's got it and who doesn't, right?
Right. Because
I will say that a lot of times, when you first look at someone, and everything about our art form is visual.
Right.
There isn't much in the way of speaking on stage, so it's, what does this person look like? What potential does this person have? And one of the biggest challenges in my role, because, I have to hire dancers every year, it's a young profession, if I can say, unlike opera, where you're pretty much at your peak by your early 30s. That's where you are physically at your peak. But the career is done. If you're really fortunate, you might make it to 38, maybe 40, and your career is done. It's a professional athlete's career. And to determine if someone's got what it takes, when you're looking at someone, it may not always just be their technique. It may not always be, well, how many turns can they do? But it's about how can they do the turn? How good does it look? Some of the greatest artists of the 20th century couldn't do more than 3 pirouettes, 3 turns, and yet they were renowned worldwide for their artistry and had incredible careers. And, I value artistry quite highly. It's the elusive part of this profession. The technical part, you can drill stuff into people, and you can, work them like a drill sergeant, and pull out the all the guns and get them to do, jump higher, turn longer, balance forever. But it's the artistry that really needs coaching, and that's not something that happens overnight. That takes time. So one of my challenges is seeing the potential artistry in somebody at a young age and deciding, am I prepared to invest the time and energies of our company into providing a rich environment for someone to be able to grow and become a really great contributing member of our company, and therefore, along with the other 29 individuals in the company, presenting great art on stage for Kansas City. So that's a challenge, Danny, and it's one that is almost daily.
Right.
For every ballet we cast, every single ballet,
no
that determination has to be made.
Our guest is Devin Carney. He's the creative director for the Kansas City Ballet, and you've sort of delved into what your particular role is. What are some of the other things that you handle as the creative director for the ballet?
Well, first there's determining what's going to show up on stage. And I don't mean what dancers, but I mean what works are we going to present on stage for the Kansas City community. That's a biggie. That one is sort of like one of the prime directives, because from there stems a lot of other decisions. But determining what works we're going to do out there, and that weighs heavily on me, because I want our audiences to have as wide and diverse a range of works to enjoy in the course of a season. Because I'd love for as much of our community to be interested in coming to see us, right? Right. So it takes many, many years. Obviously, it's helpful that I had a good career with Boston Ballet. I toured the world. I worked with Rudolf Nureyev. I worked with Baryshnikov. I worked extensively with these great artists. So I have a lot of great resources in terms of connections, as well as experiences to draw on to determine what kind of works we're going to do out there on stage. The other part of that is having an open mind to where dance is going and not living completely in the past. That's a very important aspect of being an artistic director, is you're looking into the future and trying to determine what is going to be relatable, what is going to be enjoyable, what is going to be something that an audience member is going to walk away from and say, wow, my seat, I should have paid twice as much for my seat, because that was an evening of incredible entertainment and beautiful art. So that's just the first part. What goes out on stage? Is it going to be classical work? Is it going to be contemporary work? Will we do Nutcracker this year? Well, that I can answer right now. We will do Nutcracker this year and every year. And it's also determining, what version of a work are we going to do? Because there's many versions of different ballets out there. And, I've created a lot of new works for the company, full-length works of the classics in my going on 7 years now here with Kansas City Ballet. And that's always important, to be thinking about what experiences will the dancers have in terms of the type, the interpretation of a classic work. And also what coaches are going to come and coach pre-existing works. For instance, we do usually one Balanchine work a year. George Balanchine was one of the greatest living choreographers of the 20th century, who began New York City Ballet. He passed in 1983 and left an incredible house of amazing work to choose from, but it's limited. There's only so much of it out there.
Right.
He's not making any new ones lately. So
from the grave.
Right. So we have to determine which one is going to be really going to work for this particular season or that particular season. And sometimes rarely in my 7 years have we not done one in a year, but we do. So you've got all these ballets that I can choose from, as well as incredible world-renowned current choreographers who are creating new works. And then combined with the choice of the work is how much that work might cost us.
Right.
And balancing the financial side of life with the artistry. And how good of a work can we get for how little of a price? Right? Because we do have a budget and we need to be, financially responsible individuals. As an organization, we need to be within our financial means. We can't go blowing out the doors creating, $5 million productions when we just can't afford that.
Right.
So on top of just the repertoire that we perform on stage, it's also who's going to dance that. And therein is my annual, also another part of my job is finding the best possible dancers every single year. Not just in 5 years, but every single year. I have to make a determination. Are the 30 dancers that are with us the right ones? And sometimes I have to make adjustments, and there are unfortunately some dancers that aren't going to be with us the following season because they're not keeping up with the evolution of the other dancers in the company. And when that happens, I'm also out there auditioning for artists across the country. I do a national audition tour, and I go to places like San Francisco, Miami, Houston, New York City, Boston, Seattle, and of course we hold our own audition here in Kansas City. And I see usually around 600 to 1,000 dancers in a given audition season.
Wow.
And I also accept videos, and I get around 500 videos as well. And out of, what is that now? That would be potentially 1,500 different talented individuals are knocking on our door.
Right.
And I may have, within the company environment, there may be 2 to 4 spots open any given year.
Yeah.
And then I have a second company, and that audition tour also is looking for individuals to fill in spots in the second company, which ranges between 5 and 10 per year. So I see a lot of artists for very few individual spots.
Mm-hmm.
So that, again, goes back to your previous question about how do you know who's got what it takes. And that's just, it's something you learn. It's an eye. It's from being in the business for 40-some years that I've been in the business. Actually, 46 years now. So, it's through experience. Just like an opera singer can tell when someone's perfectly in pitch. I mean, who has perfect pitch, And that takes somebody who has a really trained musical ear to really understand that. And that takes experience.
Yeah.
So that's the second part. So you've got repertoire, you've got the dancers, and then you also have the staff to coach those dancers. And that as well is something I have to determine each year if the current artistic staff, otherwise known as the assistant coaches, in sports, are really right for the job given the artistic landscape of where the company is at. So that's another part of what I do. And on top of all that, I need to be a mentor, and I need to be someone who's got a good open ear, who's really ready to listen, because artists are, and I don't mean this in any way in a offense to any artist who might be listening, but and I say that because I'm one too, all right? But most artists have a good, healthy sense of insecurity about their art form, and you've got to be ready to help the artist be the best they can be. And sometimes that's an emotional situation. It has nothing to do with their actual artistry because it's all in your head, and if it's stuck in your head, you're not going to produce the best art you can. So you've got to be mentally in the right place to produce the art. So that as well is a part of something I do. My door is always open to the artists, the dancers of the company, and to the choreographers who we have here. And, it's very much a part of my life, is being that person who's a good listener, really. Who's a good listener?
Well, it's part of my job today. We are speaking with the artistic director. It's the biggest part of my job today. Artistic director Devin Carney of the Kansas City Ballet. And we'll talk about this year's production of The Nutcracker coming up next on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by the Exit Room of Lee Summit at Danny Clinkscale's Reasonably Irreverent podcast.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way, and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
There's no need to get a case of the Mondays every week, not during football season anyway. Hey, this is Matt Llewellyn from the 23rd Street Brewery, and we are the place for Monday Night Football. Food and drink specials every week, and all new televisions always at 23rd Street Brewery. The hardest thing about Mondays now will be getting through the workday, although waking up on Tuesdays might be a little bit tough. But remember, watch all the Chiefs games, NFL games, every game at the 23rd Street Brewery.
Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256. I was duped, and I recommend you be next. For better or worse, the ultra-realistic impression of me sits now in my wife's office to spook her on a daily basis. So what is Doob? D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations. Visit their location down on the plaza in the heart of it at 231 West 47th Street in KC Mo. Doob, be next. Devin Carney is our guest. He is the creative director of the Kansas City Ballet, and it's time now to talk about that annual rite of the holiday season, which is the Nutcracker. And you mentioned before that, are we going to do the Nutcracker? Of course we are. Is there ever a sense of, in being an artistic director or running an opera, or we have to do the Nutcracker, rather than, we love to do the Nutcracker? Is there any of that?
Well, I'll from my personal experience, I always loved doing the Nutcracker. Since I was my first year dancing, it was Nutcracker that actually was what brought me into dance. I had been taking ballet for maybe 3 months, and I got a walk-on role in the Nutcracker that year, pulling the Snow King and Queen's sleigh. I was a reindeer, okay? And it was literally, and I'm not kidding you, Danny, it was a love at first sight or love at first experience moment for me when I walked on stage pulling that sleigh and saw the spotlight hit the sleigh, which hit me as well, which was exciting, and saw that dust floating in the spotlight, and heard the live music, which was an incredible, fortunate aspect of my first experience, was that I was in a situation where it was live, a full symphonic version, and heard the applause. It was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. This is my life. I know it now, right now. And it was the very first moment when I walked on stage. So I have, since that moment, always loved doing Nutcracker. And it's something, as a professional, I enjoyed every show of doing Nutcracker. Even if I was a little not feeling well or whatever, it was actually, the show actually pulled me out of not feeling well. Once you get out there on stage, you kind of lose yourself. And Nutcracker has just always been a part of my life, and I can't even imagine what life would be like without Nutcracker. And what's exciting about Nutcracker is that it gives you a chance to really, it's like a baseline. It's like getting an annual physical. It's like, you have a place to measure your life by, because it's Nutcracker every year. What has happened since the last time we did Nutcracker? How much better am I as a performing artist? How much better is the company that I'm running from the year before? And so it's the only snapshot we actually get to kind of compare life and compare our progress from year to year. Is there ever a moment where I would say, "Oh, we have to do Nutcracker again"? No.
That's great.
For me, no. I really enjoy it, and I mean that wholeheartedly. We've created a new one when I got here to Kansas City Ballet in 2015. We presented a brand new $2 million production, which was fully my ideas and come to life, and some of them are pretty wacky and fun, and that's what Nutcracker should be. It's a time to have fun. It's a time to, be in a place where your sense of the holidays can kind of be allowed to go free, and see that time of year through a child's eye. And I love doing Nutcracker. Now, some dancers, not everybody feels as adamantly excited about it every day as I do. But in general, I think we all believe that Nutcracker is a very important part of our year. It's also, on a financial side of life, it is the highest selling performance we do, and that most companies do every year. And it is indeed a work that provides us the opportunities to do all the other works we do.
Right.
It takes care of the lack of ticket sales, or let's say the lack of great ticket sales that, for instance, a more contemporary ballet that we might put out there would provide us. So they kind of, at the end of the season, it offsets a lot of those lower attendance rates. And that is very important, and every dancer understands that.
Maybe it's sort of the equivalent of an actor who will do a more commercial film so they can do an independent film.
Exactly. Yep. Or just, somebody who does a lot of commercial voiceovers, right, or cartoon voiceovers. These things are fairly financially rewarding, yet, I wouldn't say that they're artistically something that, you're going to get a lot of screen time, if you want to call it,
Right.
So, yeah, it's a good analogy.
It also is many people's entree to the ballet.
Many.
And it's also many times maybe the only ballet that people will see, and their only experience with the ballet. So, first of all, you can create fans, as it were. Secondly, this may be the experience of ballet for a person that will make them judge what they think of ballet, because they may never see other ballets.
Yep. One of the greatest continual lines I hear is when I ask somebody, "Oh, have you come to see the ballet?" They'll say, "No, but I've seen the Nutcracker."
Right.
It is definitely a moment in the year where we have the opportunity to introduce this art form to a whole new population. Generally speaking, and this is a big generalization, around 60 to 65% of our audience for Nutcracker are new every year.
Right.
Every year. So everything you asked me, all those statements you mentioned, hold true. For some, it may be the only thing they ever see that has ballet in it. And it's also a great entry into being able to come and see other works, because you see Nutcracker and then you see that we're doing other things and you go, oh, well, let me see what else they do. So indeed, it is a great opportunity for, it's like being an ambassador. Nutcracker is the ambassador for ballet because it is the most broadly viewed work. It can also be the most misinterpreted work as well, because there's so many versions out there. Every company has their own version. Mm-hmm. And so if you saw a Nutcracker by, a small school company in, a different state, and I won't say any state because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, of course,
right.
But, somewhere else, and they, it's done a lot by the students and a few professionals are involved. And if that's the first experience somebody has at Nutcracker, they may think that that's ballet, when indeed that would be more of a semi-amateur version of Nutcracker. So until someone really gets to see a high-quality production like ours, you really are in a position where you're not really getting well-informed as to what ballet could be. Mm-hmm. So that's one of our challenges of Nutcracker, is that there are so many versions out there that it's always convincing people that our Nutcracker is one that's worth seeing. And I would say it is worth seeing, of course. I'm a little biased.
Of course. Nutcracker is obviously a long-standing work. Tchaikovsky, obviously
right.
The composer originally. And when things go through the test of time, there should be adjustments made, and one of the ones that is being made this time around is the changing of the Asian characters mm-hmm. in the Nutcracker. And it's being done at many opera companies around the nation. What was the process in deciding that this was that historic aspect of it was not maybe suitable anymore
right.
for audiences?
Well, I think that I think I mentioned this word earlier, that it's an evolutionary process, the art form, as is all art, frankly. Whether it be paintings in a museum or current contemporary artists or, opera companies that are choosing to do more Peter Sellers works than they were in the past. And you've got dance, which is, a 400 and some odd year old art form, not dance, but ballet in particular. Right. Dance goes back to prehistoric caveman times. You can see dance on the cave walls.
That's right.
So there's a lot of history in dance, and we, just like the times that when dance is presented, need to continually evolve with the times and with society. And so, we evolved 5 years ago, or I think we're 5 years ago now, when we created a new version of the Nutcracker. The version before, in particular, for the T role, that had some particular choreography that was very outdated for our time now. And that was something, one of my goals was to really change a lot of that. All the choreography is new. None of it's the same from the past. But that in particular was something that I knew was not very encouraging to Asian community, particularly sticking one finger up on each hand and pretending that they're like your chopsticks or something like that. It's just not appropriate, and it's something that needed to go. And I was able to do that because it was me creating the work. And we also had costume designs done. And at the time when we made it, I saw nothing really particularly wrong with the costumes. I thought they were pretty normal, traditional costumes. And in particular, the hats, the I guess you could call it the rice picker hats, or the, it's that triangular shaped hat. which over the last 2 to 3 years, companies around the country, there's been a conversation going on about representing Asian Americans more in a culturally appropriate way. And New York City Ballet, which is sort of like the iconic big ballet company of the country, along with American Ballet Theater, they chose to change some of the aspects of their production of the tea role, which was quite inspiring to a lot of people to go, oh, wow, okay, people are getting really serious about this and making, visual changes. And I had heard about that, and it had been brought to my attention that there were some things in our production that currently were not being complimentary to an Asian person. And those hats were one of them. Another was doing makeup that might indicate Asian look in the eyes. And also, there's this thing, these mustaches, the very thin mustaches that hang down the sides of a Genghis Khan, Fu Manchu, all those things. Those are
caricatures,
extreme caricatures of Asian American culture, which no longer hold true or should not hold true. But unfortunately, we all grow up with these stereotypes that are just literally embedded in our consciousness. And, it takes time as a society for us to release those overly done caricatures that oversimplify an entire culture, which is really wrong.
Right.
And I'm really grateful that we're all in this conversation right now because, it's giving me a chance to really look at the tea roles, that particular part of the show, with an open mind and one that is ready for making change.
Yeah, and people who maybe don't embrace the change, when I was doing some research, you get the comments at the bottom, and there was a snarky comment about why don't we, drag Tchaikovsky out of the grave and whip him for his transgressions or whatever.
Well, go ahead and try that.
But I guess my thought would be, what exactly is lost if you change a caricature type mustache? What have you lost? You really haven't lost anything.
Right. I know, and that's the part of being open-minded, which I talked about as an artistic director. It's something I have to be. Mm-hmm. And this is a good example of that, is being a good listener and being ready to embrace new ideas. And that's something I'm really excited about, frankly, Danny. I really am, and it really makes me it's a good, healthy example of welcoming change and understanding that change isn't bad. It's actually good, because if we can make something, and it's not huge changes that I need to make. Honestly, it's some of the hats for the guys, and some of the makeup, and there's a couple of steps in the work that represent things in the history of Chinese Americans or Chinese individuals who emigrated here that are represented in this simple thing. It's all the stereotypical things, the little tiny shuffling of feet. That's offensive. The fingers, which we didn't have in the first place, but that's offensive. The hats can mean very low income workers.
Right.
That can be offensive. These are all things that I'm thrilled that I'm much more aware of now. And heaven forbid, I don't want to be offensive to anyone. So I'm happy to be able to make these changes that aren't really going to change the actual mood of the work, which is Clara having an opportunity to be visited by all these different cultures represented in, food, tea, or Arabian coffee, or chocolate Spanish, So I'm thrilled about it, and I don't think it will stop with that. I'm sure I will continue to constantly scan the landscape of every ballet. We always do, and make sure we're being as culturally appropriate as we can be.
Also surrounding, you mentioned it's such a popular thing. Ticket sales are usually like at 95% or something like that.
Right.
But you are accompanying the Nutcracker with a variety of different ways of presenting it, a VIP type of thing.
Correct.
There's also
sensory friendly.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about some of those
Sure.
initiatives?
Well, the VIP is for a little extra cost, you get to have a special room to take your intermission on, and you get some of the characters will come out and visit during the intermission. And I think that's fun for like a big group or a large family who's doing a Christmas get together. I think that's a wonderful thing that we've come up with as an idea of a way to make it just that much more of a special time for a group. The sensory friendly performance is something that we began last year. It's I was, and that has a long history for me. When I was with Boston Ballet, we used to do the term sensory friendly was nowhere in anybody's lexicon of language back in the 80s. Okay, what we did was we would do a special needs dress rehearsal is what we called it. And basically, we'd do a dress rehearsal, and we were all encouraged as the dancers to go out into the house where all the kids were sitting and visit. And these kids came from Children's Hospital in Boston and from Shriners and many different hospitals. Children were coming to this performance who were literally in beds. They wheeled them in with IVs running or in wheelchairs, or they were autistic, or they were Down syndromes individuals, so Tourette's, and they were all in the Wang Center at Boston Ballet performing. We were all there together, and it was one glorious cacophony of sound coming from the audience of these kids who were just happy to be watching us. And I was so thrilled to be able to go out in the audience on the intermission and just say hello. And they may not even be able to express in words their happiness, but they would just so love the experience. And it made a huge impact on me as a person. So fast forward to my time here at Kansas City Ballet, and one of my goals when I got here was that someday soon we were going to do this sensory-friendly performance. And we first needed to get a new Nutcracker going, and we needed that Nutcracker to kind of settle down so we kind of knew what the flow of that show would be. And then finally last year, the year before, we determined we were going to do it. And then last year we presented it for around 650 children and their families. And it was quite a moving experience for the Kaufman Center, for all those on staff, for the ushers, for everybody on our staff and our dancers. We came out during before the show, and we came out and the dancers met the kids on the intermission. Some came out just after the show. It was a really great experience, and the seating is open. Okay, it's not like, Danny, you have row R, seat 1 and 2, right? It is come in and find an area that you're comfortable with. And it's not booked heavily, so that there is room to spread out. So there is room for any children who might be uncomfortable in large groups. That's why we did it that way, to be able to be comfortable. We have quiet rooms set up in the lobby, and we have quiet rooms set up. There are rooms that are reserved on each floor. So if a child gets overstimulated, there's a place for parent and child to go and settle back down and come back in. Kids are welcome, as well as obviously parents and caretakers, to get up at any point during the show if they need to leave. The lights are set at half house lights, so there's not that scariness of being in the dark, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are certain aspects of the show that we kind of temper a little bit. That, like there's a point in the battle scene where one of the mice screams out really loud. We don't do that during that show because that might scare somebody. It's a sudden, abrasive moment that could scare somebody and set them off in the wrong way. There are some particular acoustic moments for the symphony that are, we ask that they kind of the crescendo isn't quite so loud, as example, okay? There is one moment in the party scene where all the boys make a big stir, and the symphony has all these party favors that they have. Well, we don't use those during that show. So there's a lot of things we do to kind of make the environment a little bit more attainable for somebody who can get easily overstimulated. And
what
it's
a great idea.
Awesome. Yeah, we love it.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
The Nutcracker runs the 5th through the 24th of December at the Kaufman Center for the Performing Arts. That sensory-friendly performance is on the 18th. There are matinees, and just go to the Kansas City Ballet website, and you can find out all that information. That'll be much better expressed than I will right here. You mentioned when we started talking about the Nutcracker how that was a love-at-first-sight type of experience for you. In conclusion here, can you maybe, for somebody completely uninitiated, what would be, tell us why the Nutcracker is a great addition to the holiday experience for anyone?
Wow. Okay, Danny, that's a great question. You have so many good ones. I really appreciate our time to chat. It's really
Me too.
Awesome. I would say Nutcracker is a chance. Okay, here's the thing. We all know the holidays can get kind of hectic, right? They can be this constant rush from one shopping experience to another, from one party to another, from one, gotta get, the Christmas cards out. I gotta get the tree up. There's a lot of things about the holidays that can be kind of overwhelming, when you add it all up, right? And the wonderful thing about Nutcracker is that you get a chance to step away from all of that hurriedness of the holidays, that slight panicky kind of feeling of, am I getting everything done I need to get done before the 24th evening comes along? Right? We all go, here we go. And when you come to see the Nutcracker, what's great is it's a chance to turn the phone off, turn the internet off, take you and the ones you love, and sit down and just be entertained. And no interruptions. Just you and your family or your friends, and being
and the Sugar Plum Fairy.
Yeah, you get a chance to just be drawn into this world that, allows you to just get back to sort of the root of the holidays, about family and about being a child, having a childlike heart, and really understanding a little bit more of the reason for the season, a little bit more of the sense of joy about the season. And Nutcracker provides all of that and more. So much entertainment. I can't tell you. It's crazy how fun it is. And there's so much humor. And it's a chance to have a lighthearted experience. And it's a chance to just be enthralled and whisked off to this land where, sugar plums dance and, children dream, and it's all that stuff, which is just so, I think it's so important that everybody at least somehow finds a moment to have that in the holiday rush, and here we are, it's early November. I mean, you know how it is. It's in mid-October, we're already, the Christmas things are showing up in the stores, in the the supermarkets and the Home Depots and, all the hardware stores, up come all the Christmas trees. And it's just, there's this constant push toward that one day, but there's much more to it than that. And I think that's what Nutcracker can provide. It's a really important part of the year to be able to just sit back and kind of take a deep breath and laugh and walk out of there a little bit lighter in your step. And who can't say that that's not worth participating in?
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like the Exit Room of Lee's Summit. Come with friends, family, colleagues, or a team to tackle the challenges of this unique escape room.